Hello, everyone. I'm Tracy, and I'm here with Shane. And today we're here to present the recent fire in Jasper, Canada, in Alberta province, right? And
Yes.
we're also going to go into a previous fire called Fort McMurray, which was in 2016. And we'll show some pictures and compare them to each other, as well as compare some things to Lahaina. Before we get started, though, if you have not done so yet, please subscribe before you leave and like, comment, and share this video so we can let as many people know what's going on. So with that, I am going to first do like a little intro because I feel confident that I can give these, I guess, some of them are characteristics or some of them maybe in a way warning signs. Been getting a lot of emails asking, is this fire a planned one? Is this one? And I don't know for sure. So I can't give a definitive answer, but I do have some things that I can discuss that kind of point in the direction that it was an orchestrated fire. So, one is that there's a strong movement associated with the disaster. Not always, but oftentimes there is a grassroots strong movement that helps bring awareness and collects donations to help the victims. Also, there are plans for redevelopment in the area that's burned. Oftentimes, it's for a smart city, or they call it a lot of different things, TOD corridor. Sometimes the plans are to install infrastructure such as a rail or a pipeline. Also, we see that these fires sometimes destroy industries, like we saw in Amarillo, the cattle industry. They lost a lot of cattle, and their ranches were often destroyed. Something that I hear with most of these fires is it's an unusually fast spreading fire. So when you talk to witnesses that experience this, they'll say things like, it's like nothing I've seen before. And a lot of the people that I've heard interviews with, they've experienced fires before. Like in the case of Ruidoso, the Ruidoso fire this year was not the first fire, but a couple of witnesses that had to evacuate said that it wasn't like the other fires. This one moved so fast, it was so destructive. So that is a very common thing that we see here. And also, we see unusual destruction patterns after the fire. So things like blue, green, and red items are often kind of like not damaged as much. Also, metal seems to burn, and they often this like white ash is left after a structure is leveled. So in a normal fire, you would see a lot of black staining on things, but like if you could see in this one, this is unusual, but it tends to leave a white kind of powdery residue. And also, we see electronics being affected in a way that is hard to explain. I think this one is from Fort McMurray, where all the appliances were stopped working because I'll let Shane go into how that happened. But the house is still standing, but the appliances broke.
They had a service that went around in Fort McMurray after the 2016 fire to pick up damaged appliances. And these appliances were found damaged in homes that were not actually burned. So these two homes, you can see the siding is slightly melted, but there's no actual burn damage to the houses. However, their refrigerators, washers, dryers, and other appliances were damaged electrically somehow. And it seems like some sort of electrical induction happened through the grid, which could possibly be explained by microwave induction. So if microwaves were to strike the power lines or the grid, it would cause a power surge that would go through the appliances and short circuit them.
Okay. And then also with Jeff Sims' escape interview, he spoke about how the compressor, the AC compressor, exploded before the fire had reached that area, and so he thought that was really strange. So,
Yeah,
all
I
right,
think
so
that's the
to
same phenomenon of electrical induction.
right. Okay, so we're mainly going to focus on Jasper, but to understand Jasper, we also need to, or it's important to go into Fort McMurray. So, Fort McMurray is also in Alberta, but it's on the opposite side. It's on the eastern side of Alberta, whereas Jasper is on the western end. So, they're not, these areas aren't connected, but I did want to mention it because, they're both in Alberta. All right, so we want to show this. This is just an article from Al Jazeera saying how they had evacuated for the fire. Here's another picture. I don't know exactly why it's pink and purple.
Yes, I'm curious. I want to ask anyone who's been in any of these fires if they've actually witnessed the magenta, purple, or blue color of the flames, or if that's just an artifact of the camera. Because I'm not really sure yet. It could just be a
Okay,
camera distortion.
right. And here's some damage from Fort McMurray. You see this classic pooling of metal that's been melted, and like missing door handles, and just the destruction of metal seems to be a very common theme. And here you see this is Trudeau looking at the damage at Fort McMurray. And the woman is the premier, right? Who is like the governor of Alberta, my
Right.
understanding. So
Hmm.
that's him looking at it. And sure, he was quite interested in what happened. Again, Fort McMurray, this unusual white residue that's left behind versus black. And also in the aftermath, we often see like structures and cars destroyed, but trees still standing. Again, this is Fort McMurray. So the church is mostly destroyed, but you do see a lot of trees still
Trees all
standing.
around.
Right.
Yeah.
And then this one's really interesting, and this reminded me of a picture we have from Lahaina. So this is like a kid's play car, and it's plastic. I'm assuming it is plastic, and I'm assuming it was there during the fire because it would be unusual for a kid to bring a toy into a disaster zone. So I'm just assuming it survived the fire right here, and we see that.
Yeah, and another thing to remember is that when they were evacuated, they didn't get to come back for a long time. And so the media was allowed back in before the families were. So most likely everything is still in the place that it was left.
Right. And here, this is Lahaina with a little plastic kid's car.
2,400 homes were lost. In this graphic, it doesn't say homes, but that's what they were talking about was the homes.
Right. I wasn't aware of these things back then, but this was a big fire. A little bigger, as far as structures lost, a little bigger than Lahaina. And this is just an article about Alberta Strong, and I'll let Shane go a little bit more into the Alberta Strong and how that
Okay.
started.
Yeah. So this isn't that was an article that was written a few months, right after the Fort McMurray fire, but it was a few months after the creation of Alberta Strong. So most people got the impression that Alberta Strong was created in the aftermath of the Fort McMurray fire. But when we go to their Facebook page, you can see that it was actually created on February 24th of 2016, which was actually about 3 months before the Fort McMurray fire. So it looks like Alberta Strong was already established and in place at the time of the Fort McMurray fire, although most people believe that it was actually in response to the Fort McMurray fire. So then I also wanted to cover the fact that not only did Fort McMurray have the fire back in 2016, but they are once again being threatened by fire. This is an article from earlier this week that says evacuation orders issued as wildfire grows near Canada's Alberta oil patch. And they say that A blaze nears Fort McMurray in the Alberta tar sands. And then later in the article, it does mention the evacuation orders for neighborhoods in Fort McMurray were issued. And I just wanted to give a fire update. This is from last night, probably 2 nights ago, as of the airing of this video. But there are several wildfires encroaching on the town of Fort McMurray. So you guys should stay vigilant and keep an eye out and be ready to evacuate if necessary. Okay, so I also wanted to show that Fort McMurray also has plans. They have redevelopment plans. This is the Fort McMurray Downtown Visualization Strategic Plan, which is part of the regional municipality of Wood Buffalo, which is kind of like the county in which Fort McMurray resides. And so there they have, county council has plans to redevelop Fort McMurray, and we're going to find that in other places as well. But first, we're going to go into Jasper now, because the town of Jasper has also had an amazingly destructive fire, and it moved very quickly, and it had unprecedented fire behavior. All right, so now this is a photo that was taken in Jasper, Canada, and this was taken by Marty Up North, also known as Martin Bellinger. This house actually reminds me very much of the burn patterns of Wyola Church in Lahaina, whereas every single board is equally energized along its entire length, and it looks like the only portion of this house which has not yet caught on fire is the lower left portion. All right. So now some of our viewers have alerted us to the presence of Martin Bellinger up in Canada. He has a Twitter page and a YouTube, and he's been very outspoken against the mismanagement of the Alberta forests. And he goes into a lot of detail. I'm not going to show it all here, but I just wanted to give a shout out to Marty Up North and tell everyone to go follow his Twitter and everything, because he does keep up on this stuff, and he's very well versed in the failures and the mismanagement of the Alberta forestry. Okay. And one of the things that he did point out was an article from, I believe it was perhaps 2018, where they had warned the Canada Forestry Department for a couple of years, for 2017 and 2018, about this problem with the beetle infestation and the dead trees. And they gave the answer that they're quite comfortable with where they are with their own emergency planning and evacuation planning, as well as forestry maintenance. And so they're going to eat those words, because it turns out that one of the factors in this fire being so ferocious was the fact that they were mismanaging the removal of the dead trees that were left over from the beetle infestation. All right, so now I want to go into some of the fire behavior that we've seen in Jasper, which is very similar to other places that we've seen, like Lahaina and Fort McMurray and elsewhere. This is a blue truck that you see on the left, and it appears to have been untouched by the fire, although there is some damage to the steel rim. It's unclear whether this truck actually had a hubcap on it or not, but it does look like there is some oxidation to the rim, as well as the paint jobs of the cars behind it. So it does appear that this truck was here for the fire, as well as these boats in the background. So you can see two boats in the background behind the trees that have their leaves on them still. And these two boats, the one on the left has a green boat cover, and the one on the right has a blue boat cover, which seems to have allowed both of these boats to survive. You can see a little bit more of the boats in this picture, as well as the cars in the foreground and the leaves right above them. It's amazing that the leaves on these trees are still intact. Okay, so now we have some more damage. This looks like it's probably either an apartment complex or a commercial zone, but all of the structure has collapsed in on itself, and all we see is the rubble that's left over, which is surprisingly mostly white and gray with a little bit of tan. You don't see very much black smoke damage, which is kind of suspicious. Equally suspicious, if not more so, is the fact that these lights have melted. Now, I don't know if these light covers were glass or plastic. If anyone is a local to Jasper, they could probably let us know what this material was, whether it was glass or plastic. But either way, it's suspicious because it's right next to these pine needles. Now, these pine needles on these trees right next to the light post should have been way more flammable than the plastic, if that was plastic. But if those are glass, actually, that's even more suspicious. Okay, so now I want to show a little bit of the remaining neighborhood here. So in this picture, there's really only about 4, possibly 5 houses that are intact, and the rest are all destroyed. A lot of neighborhoods in Jasper look like this, And according to the damage map, there were almost a third of the city had actually been destroyed. Now, there were, I believe, 358 structures that were damaged beyond repair. And the map, like this map, has been released to the public. Although most of the homeowners have not yet been contacted, they released this information to the public just to get out faster. Now, another thing that has occurred in Jasper is that the RCMP is setting up checkpoints, and they're not letting people in, and they're guarding the area, allegedly to prevent theft, but it's also probably to prevent unapproved news media sources from gaining access. And this is one of the RCMP patrols that was there.
And then RCMP is the mounted police, so they're kind of known to be on horseback.
I think they were originally on horseback. Yeah, I think the Royal Canadian Mounted Police got their name from the times when they used to actually patrol on horseback. But I think these days they also have other modes of transportation that are also available to them. So now I'm going to go into the map. So here you see Jasper on the left, and it's located inside of Jasper National Park. And this national park is where the fire started and has increased to, I believe, over 80,000 acres, I believe. Actually, I do have a news clip that I want to show, a couple of news clips that I'm going to show that goes into this.
Yes, indeed. That fire is still burning on the perimeter of Jasper tonight on the north and south. It's 32,000 hectares in size. That's roughly just about under half the size of Edmonton, but the largest fire to burn in this area in 100 years.
Okay, so yes, it was the largest fire in 100 years, and it was over almost 80,000 acres, which is over 32,000 hectares. And I do have another graphic I want to show that gives you the relative position. So for those Americans that are not familiar with Alberta, Canada, it is it is directly adjacent to BC. So British Columbia is to the west of Alberta, and Alberta is the second one from the left. Fort McMurray is in the northeast section of Alberta, and Jasper is in the west central edge of Alberta. Now, it's located inside this national park where we just saw that there was over 80,000 acres burned. And I also had added these graphics of Fort McMurray that show the 2016 damage of Fort McMurray, which nearly destroyed the whole town. There were very few sections that were left undamaged in 2016. Okay, so now that we've seen some of the damage in Jasper, I want to go into the fact that they also have plans for that area. So Jasper is charging forward with a transit facility, and they are being propelled forward on the road towards zero emissions. Now, zero emissions is another one of those keywords for carbon neutral or electric motors and things like that, which they want to go all electric, and they want to get rid of gasoline engines, and they want to prohibit the use of gasoline automobiles in favor of pedestrian and bicycle and electric bus transit, as well as rail transit in some of these areas. So another plan that Jasper has is called the Destination Stewardship Plan. And this is very similar to some of these sustainable development plans and these smart tourism destination plans that we've seen in other areas. They've just rebranded it here in Alberta because, if they called everything a smart city, people would probably catch on a lot faster. So they've rebranded it in various different names, one of which is a Destination Stewardship Plan. And they also have plans to use artificial intelligence. Now, this is part of the smart city aspect. So Tourism Jasper is harnessing the power of AI, and they're using artificial intelligence as well as many other smart city applications to make Jasper a smarter and more green city. Now, it says here that they're using artificial intelligence to optimize operations and improve visitor experience. Now, this is going to involve facial recognition as well as all sorts of other tracking. And they're trying to produce a smart city type of perhaps minority report style pre-crime division. So like this is also one of the things that's rolling out in Lahaina. John Pelletier gave a little bit of and he alluded to this in one of his speeches about the towers that they want to use for detecting the fires. However, these towers are also going to be used for facial recognition and tracking of individuals too. All right, and then one more plan that we have in Jasper is called the SkyTram redevelopment. So another part of this is to redevelop the SkyTram that they have there, and all of this kind of fits together. It dovetails with all of their other smart city plans. Now, I wanted to bring up the Strong Cities network because some of the cities that are near Jasper, namely Edmonton and Calgary, are also part of this Strong Cities network. Now, Strong Cities is another name for smart cities, but it's more of like the electronic social governance style of smart cities. And it's not just Ottawa or it's not just Alberta. They have these plans in several other Canadian cities as well as throughout the world, as you can see here. And then I have one more video that I want to play that shows something interesting.
358 structures, or about 30% of the town, has been destroyed. The town's mayor, Richard Ireland, says it's beyond comprehension.
I feel their pain. I see memories of life.
Tonight, crews battling hotspots in the historic town, a UNESCO World Heritage Site and home to about 5,000 people, are hoping for cooler temperatures and rain helping them gain the upper hand.
Okay, so you heard her say it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, which means that the UN basically already has laid a claim to this city because it lies within one of their World Heritage Sites, which is the Jasper National Park. All right, and that's all I have for today. And back to you, Tracy.
All right. Thank you, Shane. I just wanted to do like a little personal note that when I first looked into Jasper, it just really broke my heart because it's such a large, beautiful area. Just, it looks probably like it did, 300-400 years ago, maybe even 1,000 years ago, with the lakes and the trees. And that's why it's a big tourist destination. And to see that, I believe they said half of Jasper is burned. So a third of a big area, though. A lot of that didn't necessarily have structures, but it was a very beautiful part of the world. So, similar to Lahaina, just one of those extremely special and beautiful areas that are now have been changed forever. So I think that's going to do it. So for everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. And if you have not subscribed, please do so before you leave. And we have a few other videos coming up. One, we're going to go into the fire going on near Chico, the park fire. And there are so many other fires springing up. I don't think we're going to cover everyone, but we'll do our best to cover as much as we can and do this research and present it. This stuff takes a long time. So just be patient with us. We'll do our best to get this to you guys as soon as we can. So with that, thank you all for being here, and we'll see you all soon. Bye.